Everybody, hope the weekend was nice. Very good weather here in Jersey for those of you not here. Um, Hopefully, this should be a little bit better. I was listening back to my other sessions and the microphone wasn't playing ball, so I've made some adjustments. So hopefully, that should be a little bit better for you now. I'm going to jump straight into it today. Want to do the last kind of session to do with like maybe the microbits. We might have another look. But if we remember last time, if I go straight to this and have a look at the cam and the screen, there we go. I've got some code here that I've made to do with some microbits. We're also going to look here, if I look at the desk view, going to look at using this device here. And we're going to use other microbits here to communicate with other microbits. So here we've got a microbit that's connected to some batteries so that it's got its own power. It's like a little remote here. We've got this microbit that's connected to some wires. And when I press A and B, I'm sending a radio signal via Bluetooth from one device to another. So press the A, it's got the tick. Press the B, I've got a cross. And if we go and have a look at what that looks like here, we've got those, and I'll zoom in a little bit when I click on that inside and then click in. I'm just going to zoom in just a tad here, make sure my face isn't getting in the way. That's all it says. It says button A, press send yes, button B, press say no, and then it's looking to receive those. So I'm going to have a little look about why this is good, because what I want to do is control this device as a remote control. So let's have another little look at the kind of directions that we can go with this. So here we have, if I look at the desk view again, and you've kind of seen this working now, this is called a microbit move. And you can buy these, and they have two continuous servos inside. You can just about see them, not quite. They're just controlling these two wheels. And you can make this just move around and turn left and right. But for me, that's a little bit boring. What I want to get us to at some point, maybe not over the next session, is getting to make our own robots using microbits, or understand how to at least, and be able to either make them autonomous, in other words, using things like the ultrasonic sensor we had a look at last week as the controlling mechanism, maybe just distance, or having a remote controlled session here. So the idea is potentially to maybe make a local robot wars of some description and be able to make these robots do things and bash each other around or do different competitions for those. So we're looking to see why or how we can do this kind of stuff. So I'm going to start from scratch. And again, you can do a lot of this yourself, check you're learning it, because if you're here still doing the thinking as a coder to get that qualification that we can do an online test for, all this understanding and testing is exactly kind of the last part of that course. So rather than go through the boring slides, I wanted us to make stuff here, or at least see me make them, and then see what goes wrong or right, or how we test them and make them better and iterate. In other words, make it better and better each time. So again, as always, you can find links or easy links using digital.edu.je here, and that will take you straight to the Thinking as a Coder site where we have these links. And I'm going to be going to the Microbit Make Code Editor here, wonderful tool. And you can do that as well by going directly to makecode.microbit.org, not .com, .org, or use the digital.edu.je to take you straight to this page, and then click on that link there for the Microbit Make Code. And when you click on that, it will load up the page. I've been doing some different things now here, so I'm going to have a look at those. But I'm going to start from scratch and show you other things. So if you were looking at following this yourself, the one that we're having a look at here, I think they do have a tutorial, Microbit Chat. So how you can make one connect to another. We've got different other tools here, and we can play different games. We've got Mood Radio, Telly Potato, I think there's loads of different things, and Fireflies, all these radio games that are here you can have a go with and play around with. Again, the Microbit, really cheap device, with so much variety, and some of your schools may already have them. I know lots of schools that have these microbits, and maybe you can ask to use one at lunchtime, or maybe borrow one home to follow along to the stuff we've been talking about. So let's get cracking with this one, and do let me know in the chat if the microphone is playing up again, but I think I've tested it. I can hear myself much better than I did the previous session. So in the Make Code Editor, I'm just going to go to Make New Project there. And we're just going to give this a name of radio test. There we go. And the first thing to do is, like with Python that we've talked about before, and I feel that the next session after this week, I might stop doing the robotics, move on to something else, maybe a bit of web development, a bit of JavaScript and HTML. I think that's the next kind of movement here, to make your own websites, which we can do live using things like Trinket. So if you've not enjoyed the robotics as much as the Python code, we'll be returning to a bit of code next week. So we've got the usual start and forevers here. But like with Python, when we bring in other libraries, I want to bring in an extension here, something to make my life a teeny bit easier. Because if we go to radio here at the moment, we've got stuff that will work, but we have to send names and radio numbers. We can make this slightly easier by going to extensions and selecting this radio broadcast extension. Just actually adds 2 single blocks in that just make things a little bit quicker. So like the servo made things quicker the other week using libraries, the radio broadcast library will make things easier for radio. So we're going to click on that, and it loads the page. And the only difference that's happened here now is when I click on radio, there's these 2 blocks here that didn't exist before. They replace these send icons here with these broadcast ones. Just makes things a little bit easier. Hello, Go Bananas, always a regular attender. Thank you very much. So how we make things communicate between is really the key. So while in this example, I'm going to have this device communicate with this device, what we're hoping to do in a second is make a remote control for this device here. And then hopefully at some point in time, maybe try and do a physical meetup with different people on Ireland, or go around to people's schools and actually start to make our own robot cars. But I'm going to take this one off for now, because I'm going to focus on these 3 items for now. And I'm going to have a little look on how we do that. So we've got the Make Code website that we've got from Thinking as a Coder here, Make Code from digital.edu.je. And what I've done is I've clicked on extensions, and I've added the radio extension, which now no longer exists because it disappears once you've selected it. And when I was doing this before, so I've got to switch it around. I'm going to close that one down so I don't confuse myself. So when we got to this area and we want to click on radio to communicate between the 2 now. I'm a channel on YouTube. Oh, that's good to know, Go Bananas. So your channel, they have to drop the channel name, and I'll have a little look for you as well. So here on the radio, I'm now going to send a radio or receive a radio, but I need some sort of action. So to do that, I'm basically just going to use button presses. I'm actually going to drag the on, start, and forever out here. I don't need them anymore. And what I'm going to do on the radio is I'm going to send a message when I press the button. That's it, really. So I will do the desk cam and screen here, actually, so I can see everything going. So when I press A on this one, I'm going to have it send a message to this microbit here. That's the kind of concept. Now, I'm going to duplicate that because I'm going to send 2 things, and it hashes itself out now because I've already got button A pressed there already. So what I need to do is just change that to button B. I could have lots of other things like on shake or on different light levels. So you can have lots of different stuff. So you can send a distress signal out if it's too hot or something like that. But we're just going to use the buttons because it's easy to demonstrate. And then I'm going to have a receive. But at the moment, the message is message 1. I want to create new messages or new commands. So I'm going to just click add new message, and I'm going to do happy. So this is like the mood generator. And in B, I'm going to add a new message here, which is going to be sad. Okay. And then I go back to my radio with this extension now available. So if you don't see these two icons, if you're doing this with me, the only reason you can't see them is because you didn't do the extension for radio messages. So I'm going to click that in here, and I'm going to duplicate that because I'm going to need it twice. And I want to tell it what I'm going to do when I receive the happy message and the sad message. Now, some of you may be thinking, why am I doing this in this same sketch? Well, this is just a bit of a cheat that I've learned over the years, that I should actually do a separate kind of program here for the sender and a separate program for the receiver. But what I want these to do is be able to communicate backwards and forwards. So I'm putting the same message on sending and receiving on each of the devices. So I'm going to do the same thing twice. Now, if you don't want that to happen, then you would have to do a separate one for each device. But I'm just going to do this as a two-way kind of radio, as it were. And when I receive a happy signal, which happens when I press the A button, or a sad when I press the B button, then I'm going to just simply do a happy icon, which is the smile, or I'm going to then duplicate that and do the sad one as well. So here I've got the sad image. So what we've got there is we've got the A happy and the B happy to go with it. So A happy and B sad. And that should work nicely. Now, sometimes when I used to do this emulator, it used to actually turn up with the second one. There we go. There we go. Testing it there. So when I press the A button, it sends that message and I get happy and I get B. So the emulator's good here because without owning two of these devices, two of these microbits, you can still play around and check that what you're doing is correct. So let's get this on to here then, shall we? So the first one's already connected, so I'm going to press download here. And if you do have a physical device, the very first time you have to pair it or connect. I've already connected, so I'm not going to see that. I'm just going to see disconnect. So now that has the button. I'm pressing them, nothing's happening because I now need to go to this device and also download it there. So it's the same message twice, and I've already saved this one as well. Now this Microbit doesn't have a battery pack, so if I'm pressing it, it doesn't have any power to do that one. This one does have a battery pack, so I'm going to leave that power on. I can see it's on because there's a little red light. I'm going to switch this one on and give it a second to load up the program that we have there. Giving it a second, I can see a little flash. Everything seems happy. So when I press A, I'm hoping, I'm just going to give it a second. I'll do it this way around. There you go. A, B. Happy, sad. Okay, that's straightforward. That's as easy as it is. So we have that communication and it should be going the other way. There we go. Happy, sad, happy, sad. So we've got this two-way communication going on between these two devices because I loaded this picture or this program onto both with both send and receives. So that's really useful to understand. So how do we now make this car move? That's really the idea. So I don't need this one anymore. That's done just to prove the point. I'm going to come onto this device now. And this does have servos. So I could go to extensions. I could download the servo library and I could start to control them manually. And I'd have to activate the two to go forward, backwards. But I'm not going to bother with that this time round. I'm going to go straight to the fact that here, as you can see, because this is a good device, it already has a library associated with this particular device. So that's really useful to know. So I'm going to click on that one. And what we didn't see before, which we're now seeing, is this servo light thing here with this car icon. So that's the new library that we have going on. So I click on that and we've got drive forward, drive backwards. Now, the reason why I'm doing that is I will load the servo library to show you it would have been much more complicated because with the servo library here, I would have had to do continuous servo on, it's got pin 1 and 0 on the back of this. If you were to take it apart and see it, I think I might actually have. Oh yes, I've got one here, half done. So this is what it looks like on the inside with the servo there connected, a continuous servo that goes round and around and around. And this is connected into the back of this, which I can see here, there, and there. So they're connected in, and they say pin 0 and pin 1. So if I was going to be doing this old school, I would have continuous servo on pin 0, and I would duplicate it and have continuous servo on pin 1. And I might have 50%. Maybe I'll press button A and I do something. I'm going to move all these around in a minute. This is just to show you the kind of why I'm not doing this, because that means both 0 and 1 are moving together. You can see here on the emulator that's going forward. And if I do left or right, I then go, okay, maybe pin 0's at minus 50%. In other words, going backwards. And then that spins this around the other way. And I never remember which one's which. And there's loads of testing and it can be a pain. So by avoiding that one and using the library here, it's already done that. So going forward is just going forward. I don't have to do both servos individually. This library has already built that into that program. So when I'm using this command, it's really the same as these two servos individually mapped, pin 1 and pin 0, one at 50% for forward. And if I was going backwards, I'd have to change them to minus 50 and minus 50 or minus 100%, as long as they're the same. And, you know, this can be confusing. So this saves me, or this library saves me that issue, really. So that's all. That's the only reason we're using it. Shortcuts, really useful. So in here, I'm going to get rid of all of this again, just because I'm going to do this. I'll keep actually A and B. And in fact, well, no, I'll play around with it as I go. So let's start nice and simple. So drive forward a distance. Okay. Except I'm not doing that now. I'm actually sending it out. So let's go to the radio. Let's add a message. And instead of message 1, or happy or sad, I'm going to do a new message called forward, or FWD. And then I'm going to duplicate that. And instead of having forward, I'm going to have a new message called back. There we go. Okay. Next, I need to go to my radio. I need to say, well, okay, I'm listening for this message called forward. So I'm going to move it to forward. When I receive that message, I'm going to move forward 20. Let's see what 20 looks like on our testing. Next, I'm going to duplicate that. In fact, actually, I won't, because I don't want forwards. Well, no, let's duplicate it and get rid of stuff. This time round, I'm going to be listening for the back call, but instead of go forwards, I could probably do go forward minus 20 if I wanted to, but there's another message called go backwards 20. Brilliant. So I've done the same trick as I did on the last one, where I'm both putting the send and the receive. So that should be fine. Send, send, on receive, on receive. There we go. That should be all right. I'm thinking that's okay. So let's download that to this. There we go. Perfect. And let's move this one over because it's got its own power now. That's why we did it. And this one also has its own power. So I'm going to switch this on in a second. Put that to it. Press download. That's downloading. Excellent. So that should, when I take this out, because they've both got their own power, when I press A, I should go forward. Let's give it a second. I'm just going to switch it on and off. Might have to reload. Should be okay. I might actually switch that on and off as well. So on radio receive, drive forward, on radio send. So it's not done that. Let me do that. On forward, on forward. So I've not got a communication. Let me do that. Always great to do live demos, but this is why we test. So I'm going to go back in, plug that in, and just double check my code and say on receive, send forward, on radio receive, forward 20. That should be okay. Right, I'm going to just download it twice more. May have been too quick. Watch that download go. Downloaded. Excellent. And do that as well. There we go. Download that. And hopefully now, when we're going, we've got our power on. And we're not working. I had it working all before. This is always great when you do live demos. I'm just going to take that out. Again, do the on and off. Always switching on and off. That's always the solutions to things. On, radio, back, received. So let me just check if I'm missing one particular item in here. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to duplicate the forward and back just to test that the power is okay. So this is what we do when we do all this testing. This should allow me to drive just by pressing the button now, just to check that all the servos are connected properly. Excellent. There you go. So that is moving forward and backwards. Oh, there we go. Just needed a reboot. There we go. Not entirely sure what's happening there, but there we go. So when I press the button A, there we go. Got our forward, got our back. That's it. I've got my remote control right here. Now, this is a bit boring because how am I going to make it turn, do different things? Well, this is the whole kind of key now, really. This is where we go to really try and push it a little bit forward with our programming. We've got a program that works here, right on the screen, but I want it to go to do more than that. So what I'm going to do now here is say, okay, what else could I do? I've got my inputs and I've got on shake, for example. Well, I'm going to choose that. And what I realize I do have is a lot more options here. I've got logo up, logo down. So that means up, down. We've got screen up and we've got screen down. We've got tilt left and tilt right. We've got free fall. You can have things actually if you just drop it and let it go. And you've actually got different types of impact. So when it crashes, it could do something and react to what we're doing. So I'm quite like the idea of using this as some sort of kind of hand gesture one, because what you could do then is you could maybe make some strap for your hand, and then you could use your hand to twist left, right, down, up. You could have maybe two, one for the servos, and then maybe like we had last week, if I started to add my bashing device on here, maybe I could use another hand to control the bashing device, or shake, and it actually bashes this going forward. So this is what we're talking about. These are the ideas that we start to have, and we evolve these ideas and make them better. So let's go with that. I'm going to drop this A. In fact, forward is going to be on logo up, and then we got on logo down for backwards. So that's forwards now, and that's backwards. Okay, I'm going to get rid of these now. Don't need these buttons. Maybe use them later on, but there we go. I'm listening for these forwards and backs. And this time, what I'm going to end up doing is doing my left and right. So I'm going to duplicate, and I'm going to have tilt left, and I'm also going to have tilt right. What I'm also going to do here is I like to know whether or not the program's been sent. So before, when I was unplugging and replugging these two, I wasn't maybe 100% sure if they were connected. So what I quite like is visuals. So we can have the forward, I can have maybe an up arrow. I'm sure I've got some arrows in there, or I'll just draw them. Did I have a quick look? There you go. I'll use that as an up arrow. And then backwards, see if I've got a downward looking icon. There you go. I've actually got an arrow down. Then I'm going to duplicate these, and I'm going to search for other things. So add a new message. This is going to be left, or yeah, was that left on? Yep, left on the left side. And let's duplicate that again and have right. So I'm starting to add way more functionality to my issues. Now, remember when we were doing thinking as a coder or doing the programming in Python, then, I need to add a new right here. These are just basically functions, and we're containing them within these areas. So on tilt left, send left. on tilt right, send right. There we go. That seems to be working. Now I'm going to get rid of these because there was other icons that would have been more useful. I'm also going to press the direction right at the top, and I'm going to get rid of these because that was a fixed distance. Again, I'm going to get rid of those at the top. What I did have was continuous. So what I had was, instead of drive forward a distance, I've just got drive forward continually. So this one's going to just go forward now every time that I have this pointed down. And then I've got a different one. I could maybe do a loop for that, which is effectively what this is. But I've got these commands in these libraries, which is why libraries speed things up, whether that's Python, whether it's something else, libraries speed things up. And then I do have in the servo one here, just turn right. And I've got the turn right. Now, there we go. Now, what I'm also going to do, just because it seemed to I think that was the issue. I'm going to duplicate those there. I shouldn't need to actually, but I'm just going to stick them in. So when it's listening, just because that seemed to work before, might have been an issue with the coding that I'd done. There we go. So quite quickly, I've got quite a few commands in here, and I'm going to got some functionality as well. In fact, what I might do is see if I can squeeze them all in the side here, just so I can add more and more things as I go on. So I'm now creating loads of functions, and this is getting quite complicated. Now, this is why I like drag and drop, because I can switch this straight back to Python. And yeah, sometimes it doesn't, because it's an extension or a library. It doesn't know how to convert the Python. So sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Now, what I did want to do, again here, just make everything look a little bit more consistent and make sure I've got the same things each time. Excellent. And I did have some icons before. I shouldn't need them because they'll be on both devices. So that should work. Okay, let's see. Let's stick that in and let's press download. And what I'm hoping here for is a control like this that I'm able to use by just holding it up and down. Now, I'm probably going to regret this because I probably should have had a kill switch, because this is going to go off or just move all the time. So I might do a kill switch in a second. Let's just see if it's working first. Okay, downloading. Every now and again it does this where it just takes a little bit longer, than normal to download as it's finding the kit. Sometimes I have to replug and unplug it. But let's go. Come on, downloading. Let's get for it. It wasn't that complicated a program. And let's see if that's working. Okay. And I'm going to switch that on and off. There we go. I'll see what happens with that one. I am sending and I am receiving. And let's just switch that off maybe. And redo that. It's going to press refresh. That's what I quite like about the online browser with MakeCode. You can press refresh and everything's not too bad. And then give it a second and do the download again. Now with the Microbit, it can be quite useful because there is a backup. If things are going really wrong, then we can have go to our download section, and we can actually download and add it on much more easily. So what I'm going to do is just grab that. I've got my hex, there we go, my revision, my screenshot, that's all good. So in my downloads here, I'm going to say that didn't work. So I'm going to do a manual download. Quite often I do this just to make sure things are working. And I'm going to download as a file. And that has now downloaded it. And if I drag that file, which is downloaded, move hex, just go to, move it just off the screen, just a second. Going to move this to not list view. So I can then say when I added stuff, there we go. So in this view now, I've got this radio test and I've got my microbit here. I can drag that onto the microbit. So if things go wrong, there is the manual way of doing it. And I can see that now flashing here. So that is going on. And I can see this little icon here trying to get it there. There we go. It's doing the happy sad thing. Oh, 502. There we go. That was the issue. So I need to just unplug and replug. So it does happen quite a few times with microbits. They're not always doing exactly what they should do. So I'm going to see if that works. Flashing light. Downloading. And let's see. Always love it when things go wrong live. There we go. It's happened now. So let us see if I turn this power on. There we go. It's going backwards, left, right. There we go. I know it's off the screen. Left, right. As I move them different directions, they go different. There you go. Backwards, forward. I told you a kill switch was required. Backwards, forwards, going backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. That way, twist. And then it's just twisting around. Let's let it twist around for a moment. Oh, there we go. So I'll switch it off and I'll get a kill switch on it. So nearly there. So carnage because I need this kill switch. But it would be good if I was able to have a camera looking down on the ground. I can have that going really, really far in different directions. But right now I need a kill switch. So similar thing to here on not logo up. I'm just going to do this as... I want a physical button because sometimes when you're shaking something, it's a bit harder to do that. So I'm actually just going to say that the button A is also going to send this icon. So let's have a look. Radio send. Do a new message saying stop. There we go. And I'm going to use that servo light to say stop. There we are. And I need an extra one here. I'll drag these all down. An extra command to do that. So we're getting the idea that we've got the ability to do lots of different things. I need to have a listen as well. So I need to say on radio receive. Do the stop. It's gone down there. And I might do an icon, which is just the cross. And I want to listen for the stop. There we go. So we're building much more complicated tools out of this. There we go. And I'm going to download that. Let's see if it downloads directly again off this. Sometimes it's, when you do that physical download, yeah, there we go. It kind of just jump starts it again. So it's okay the next time. Should really eject this properly. It's probably why I didn't like it. Then stick that on. Download again. Let's see if it likes, because sometimes switching between two isn't great, but this time it seems to have worked well. Take that out. Power on. Power on. So let's see if this does react. Let me just switch it off. There we go, then on. There we go, got back, forward, backwards, backwards there. And I'm going to send it off and the stop. There we go. The stop works at least, because if I've got the X there, and if I twist it, they go round and round and round and off again. So it's very sensitive to the up and down and right. Hard to control. But if I do the sideways, then hopefully if I do the other side, I've got the stop. But then when I do different things, we've got the different icons there. So it does work, very temperamental to do it in that way, but there are different button options that you can use. So we have got the fact that we could have done A, B, A and B. This logo at the top is another button as well, or you can use these pins, and while I don't have one here, you can buy. So if I was to switch into here and go Microbit controller, we have got these kind of devices that you can buy to do these kind of edge connectors, but we do also have these kind of remote controllers for stuff like that. So you can make games with buttons that we have here, as well as commands, and you can hold them. So you can do quite interesting things with this. And potentially, again, I'm willing to take it in the chat here. There is Make Code Arcade. And Make Code Arcade is fantastic. because this is a game-based tool that you can make for the Microbit. So one of the things that if I grab it in, show you maybe an example, Microbit arcade, you can buy, if I do different images here, you can buy controller devices. I've got this one from Elect Freaks, a good company that's running here, and you can see where you can play the game just there. There's loads of different versions of this. They're just one company that does loads of things. And you've got this area where we can make games on that as well. So really interesting to make games using this device, using sprites. And so if I did new project and do test, we can actually there, you can see what the game looks like, and you can start to make quite complicated games using pre-built sprites and other controllers. So here I can make a sprite called player, set my sprite. And so very similar to what we got, and we can draw my person as the head, obviously, great head there. And we've got the body, hello. It's a smiling person, there we go. Obviously, you can tell there's my fantastic looking icon there, artistic greatness. And we can start to then do different scenes, music, games, controllers. And you can see there's my object, straight set sprites to player, and then controller, move my sprite with buttons. So I should be able to, when this is loaded, there you go, move my sprite left and right. Look at that, dead easy to make games. So that make, Microbit is an absolutely, oh, I've got to switch this off, there you go, just went crazy. So the Microbit is a fantastic little device that can not only make robotics, but we can make games that we have here as well. Absolutely fantastic, as well as lots of other stuff. We can use it for music device. You can actually use it for quite complex electronics as well. So I'm willing to take in the chat as well. But it looks like just Go Bananas is chatting today. I'm willing to take it to do that, or go back to Trinket.io. And instead of Python, we have got things like HTML. And we can make web pages like this one that's on the right-hand side using things like this. So where it says Teach with Code, we can learn to go in and make it into my website. And then that code will disappear to my website. And I can teach you how to do different images, use JavaScript to make games in here as well. Very basic ones like create your own adventure game, as we did similarly to Python, but actually as a web-based animation rather than something else. And we can learn that Python's good for some things, HTML for others, JavaScript, robotics as well. Lots of different areas to do lots of different things. So, I'll happy to be guided in the comments. I do come back to these. I know some people go back and look at these after the case instead of just live. And what I think there is that we can actually just have a go with that and do different things. So again, when we come on, we can go through and record them. I know that's the case because if I go to YouTube and go to Digital Jersey, which you can do every time. In fact, I've got Think as a Coder. We've got a link on there to the live link, which has all the live stuff. But if you were to go onto here, and you can see here that we have lots of people that go back and watch these at a later stage. So we've got quite a few videos now going on with this. Like I said, unfortunately, I think the microphone was a bit bad last week, but I fixed that now, hopefully. I'm listening back and it seems to be fine. And we can go through and do that. So I've got a meeting with the person that runs the online tests for Thinking as a Coder. I think lots of people are ready for that. Then I'll be able to go back to the schools ready to do that. But in the meantime, you maybe want to go back through and watch from the beginning when we had that Think as a Coder live stream and revise the first sections to make sure that you understand what's going on with everything going forward. So hopefully that was of interest today. And if I go through to the Coder's intro, there we go. I'm going to go through that one. So hopefully that was of interest. And like I said, we can keep following this through, but I'm happy to be guided by the comments. So do leave comments in the posts below. I do read them. I do go back and have a look, hence me working out that the microphone wasn't that great one week because I don't like to listen to it in here. So it's muted. I can just see that my voice is moving on the bar to say it was there, so I didn't realize there was a big crackle on the previous weeks. So happy to be guided. Leave those notes and I'll go back and read them, and hopefully we'll come back again next week and, like I said, move into HTML or go into that Make Code Arcade, whichever people decide in the comments. So thank you very much. And like I said, hopefully it's been interesting. I'll see you again next week, 4 o'clock, Tuesday.